Hello and welcome to the third episode of our Scribs and Heels podcast series, Equipped and Empowered, Thriving as a Woman in GI. This is a CME certified podcast series presented in collaboration with CCO. I'm your host, Dr. Aline Charabaty, Clinical Director of the IBD Center at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine at Sibley Memorial Hospital in Washington, D.C., and of course, the very proud co-founder of Scrubs and Heels. Before we start, I want to remind you to visit the show notes for this episode to view our disclosures and find other great program activities, including a written expert clinical thought commentary and additional episodes for this podcast series. I am absolutely excited and thrilled to be joined today by my good friend, Dr. Christina Tennyson, to talk about the importance of being yourself and pursuing a rewarding work-life integration. Dr. Tennyson is a gastroenterologist with expertise and certification in nutrition, lifestyle medicine, and integrative medicine. She started her career in academia at Columbia University in New York before joining Augusta Health Digestive Wellness program in the Virginia Shenandoah Valley, where she is engaged in a multidisciplinary program that includes culinary medicine classes and farm workshops for patients. Christina, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm absolutely excited to have you here for this particular topic. You do have a very inspiring, and if I might say so, a absolutely brave journey in GI outside the box. And when you and I spoke in the past, you shared with me that there were several drivers behind your decision to pivot in your career path and to really find what best aligns with your values in terms of career and life. And some of the main drivers were burnout and not being able to really harmonize your work with your life. This is actually a struggle that many women in GI express, particularly in early or in the middle of their career. So I really would like to start by getting your thoughts on how the traditional concept of what a career in medicine and in GI should look like can contribute to burnout in women in GI and difficulties in integrating the work demands with the life that we want for ourselves or vice versa.
Thanks so much. I think one thing for me that was important is really having an open mind about what your career is going to look like over the course of your lifetime and as long as you're going to be working. And I think so many of us think of it, and we've talked about this before, is our career is not really a ladder. So we go through training thinking that we're going to do medical school, and then we do residency, and then we do fellowship, and then we become an attending. And this is like the top of the ladder. And I think for me, something that I always found helpful was thinking about my career in a little bit of a different way. And there have been lots of other descriptions or metaphors about ways to think of your career, thinking of it more of as a web, or Sheryl Sandberg talks about it as navigating through a jungle gym. Jenny Blake, who's a career coach, former career coach at Google and runs a consulting business, she talks about it as an iPhone where you can load different apps over your career, or other people have used the metaphor of a sailboat where you can tack depending on where your interests go. So I think that's been something that was really helpful for me, is thinking that, hey, it's okay to pivot and to change directions and to not stay on one particular path. I think many of us struggle through burnout, and we could talk about that in particular, but I think that's been something that, is just having that self-realization that, hey, it's okay to be compassionate for yourself and to say, hey, maybe what I'm doing now is not working. What else could I do? So I think that's been really helpful for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there are many paths to success, right? The traditional path of that ladder and climbing the academic rank or the leadership ladder might not be the right path for everyone. If this is the right path for you, this is great. And pursuing that is fantastic. But I think maybe many of us find ourselves not satisfied with that ladder. I like your jungle gym analogy. That's how I feel. I find myself having different interests that give me professional satisfaction and that I can integrate better with a personal life. Can you touch upon what do you feel are the main drivers of burnout for women in GI, and how can we address them in terms of strategizing where to spend our time and energy at work and how to set healthy boundaries?
This is something I've thought a lot about, and we know that this has been studied, that people who are younger in training, people who are interventional endoscopists, Lori Kiefer did a great study. We know that women in particular do experience burnout differently. The way that I think about it is mostly three things. So number one is just that lack of autonomy. I think not feeling like you have the flexibility or the control over your schedule. I think that's something that I have felt, and I've noticed that in my other colleagues. Second thing is really feeling overwhelmed. And there's so many feelings of overwhelm that are out of our control, whether that's the complexity of our patients, the burden of documentation and EMRs, the lack of support, feeling like we get drawn into too many things, whether it's committee work or teaching responsibilities. And then the third thing I think is really conflicts, whether it's conflicts with your own kind of work-life balance, with navigating your family responsibilities and what else you have to do. So those I found for me, and I put that autonomy on the top because I think that is something that I see over and over again. So I feel like we always have to know what's in our control and what's not, and realizing that you're not going to be able to control everything, especially even dealing with these EMR systems. It's like an ocean and the waves keep crashing and you just can't stop them, but you just have to learn to navigate them and to deal with it your own way and figure out what works for you. Those are the three things I think. And you and I wrote an article with a bunch of colleagues in 2021. And I think that's something that I think I go back to. Those three things I think are what really I think it boils down to.
I absolutely agree with you. I think having that autonomy taken away from us is a big factor of burnout. Being able to decide how our schedule should look like, how much time we can spend with our patients, but also the fact that there are so many other issues that we deal with in our patient care that become very frustrating, anywhere from getting insurance approval, from all the surprises that happen along the way. I read somewhere that being a physician is a little bit, you have your schedule, but at the same time, all day long, you're getting all these messages, the urgent messages, your patient getting sick, different things that you have to manage in addition to your schedule. So there is a sense of how much can I have control and how much can I help on those 7-8 hours I'm at work, and really almost like dodging different bullets or putting down different fires. So I agree with you. It is so important to try to find what can we control in our work and what are the things that we should just be like, okay, I have no control over that. What can I do to help myself in that setting? And I think this is where a support system and a support staff is so important. So how do you manage that stress of work? How do you manage your schedule, your medical record, your time spent on medical record outside the patient care? How do you add the project like writing papers or research or other projects that you have in mind? How do you manage that day so that you're choosing how to spend your time and energy in a strategic way that where you're both productive without getting exhausted?
Yeah, so hard, right? I'll say that off the bat. I'm not perfect. So I always, say that to myself. I'm a recovering perfectionist I'm not perfect. And I'm continually trying to figure this out and refine it. And I definitely have friends and mentors that are much, much better at this than me. And I'm just trying to figure out what works for me. So I think at the end of the day, things that have been helpful for me are really, number one, to just figure out and focus again, what's my purpose? What do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? And I think that caveat goes along with really, what do you say yes to and what do you say no to? And at different points in all of our careers, there's going to be lots of different things that change over the years, where when I was right out of fellowship, I wasn't a mother. I didn't have as many responsibilities. Currently, I have 3 kids. So I feel that constantly juggling, and I have responsibilities to them and to my family. So I think it changes over time, and we're not perfect, and we have to have some degree of self-compassion. With that, I think number one is really figuring out what your purpose is and be careful what you say yes to, and know that you can say no to things. Number two, I find it's helpful just to ask for what you need. I think so many times, particularly women, we're afraid to ask, and we think this is the way it was done. This is the way it has to be, but that's not necessarily the case. And if you need more support, you can definitely ask for it. If you need changes in your schedule, you can ask for it. And you have nothing to lose by asking. The person that you're negotiating with may say no, but at least then you advocated for yourself. The other thing I think is just knowing that we're not perfect and that's okay, and having self-compassion. And I think those things have been really helpful for me. Originally, I debated whether to go into academics or to private practice, and I felt so conflicted, and everyone was telling me their opinion. And I think I wanted eventually to try both and to try different fields. And I'm happy I did that. But then I always separated my personal life from my academic life or my work life. And I realized there are things I was always interested in, exercise and nutrition and eating healthy. And I realized that I could incorporate that into my work. And that is something that I found purpose in, and I felt really fulfilled. So I can't do it all the time, but if I can do that part of the time, I think the thing that so many of us have to, walk a tightrope or a tight line, because there's certain things that have to get done for work, taking care of patients, performing screening colonoscopies. But there's also these outside interests that I think, and I truly think this is possible, to incorporate things that you're interested in. I think that allows people to really find purpose and to also have fun and have a sustainable career while they're doing it.
I really love everything you just said. Always. I love what you said. And I think for anybody listening, it's very important to realize that nobody has it completely figured out. It's really a process, and every phase of our life and our journey looks different, right? So we have different priority that changes, but we all are still struggling and trying to find that. I don't think we will find that perfect integration, but I think it's good to aim for as good as it can be. And it's really a journey, and it's not going to be perfect all the time. There are times where we're doing more life, and there are times we're doing more work. And obviously, where you are in your life journey, whether you have a family or young kids, older kids, aging parents, whatever your other responsibility are, your priorities are going to change. And it's very important to adjust that and say, it's okay. I think the concept, having it all the time or early in the career or during our entire career is a false belief. And it's important to realize that you have to prioritize what you want from life and from work, and this will change in your journey. And I love the fact that you have integrated personal passion, like lifestyle medicine and healthy eating habits into your GI journey, and that you're sharing that with your patient, which is great, because we all know there's a big need in educating our patients on how to incorporate healthy habits in their health journey. And I think this is where the power of saying no and putting healthy boundaries to what we're doing at work is important, because it gives you that time and space to think about what do you want to do and how can you integrate it. If you're too busy and too exhausted with the daily work demand, you're not going to have that time or energy to get your board certification for nutrition or lifetime medicine or anything else that you're interested in and build a program. So I think it's so important to sometimes say stop, have these lazy times, right? Where you get to think about what you want but also pursue them and integrate them in your practice so that your personal interests are integrated in your professional interests. And I think that's the ultimate joy. So being excited and what you're bringing to your work and the innovation you're bringing into patient care. So I love that. We talk about how burnout is really affecting us, ways to manage that. But I think also one of the things that I feel maybe women have it all is that guilt of taking personal time. The traditional education, medicine, and the traditional values that society put on women is that we're like these self-sacrificing, generous being, giving everything to others and for the well-being of others, not really thinking of ourselves as a priority. And of course, if we're burned out, we can't take good care of our patients or be present to our family and loved one or just enjoy life. So what do you do in terms of filling your cup, right, on a daily basis and having that personal time that's enriching and that allows you to not also grow as a person, but also bring back that energy to your work and to your family and loved ones? What do you do, and how do you recommend that we should look at what personal time really means?
Oh, that's such a great point. Really, like devoting that time to, people always use the term self-care. And I think it, has all these connotations, but I really think it's important. And like you said, it can be so many different things. For me, exercise makes me feel so much better. So I feel like that's something that I notice in myself when I don't exercise, when I'm not getting outside, even if it's getting outside for a little bit and taking a walk, I feel so much better, and I'm more patient with my family. I'm more patient with myself. I'm able to feel refreshed. So something for me, like lunch meetings, I hate lunch meetings, especially during like my busy clinic day, because I feel like for me, I really need just a few minutes just to regroup. And I find for me, that's something in my schedule. I really hate lunch meetings. Sitting at a desk talking after I've been sitting around in the clinic talking. So I've tried to schedule walk and talk meetings during lunchtime if I have to. If something's really urgent, we take a walk and we talk about what we need to do. I love exercise, and I love being outside. That was something for me. I moved from New York City to Virginia. So where we are now, there's lots of hiking trails, and just being outside in nature, I find really fulfilling. Something else that I didn't do for years is just read. I was reading medical journals, and I just really forgot the joys of reading fiction and reading nonfiction books that I love, even if it's 15 minutes, just getting your mind to think in a different way, and also to be exposed to different works outside of medicine. I find that is always really helpful for me. I did travel a lot, to be honest, before children, but with my kids, we tend to do more road trips. And even I feel like the value of being bored or having a quiet time is actually okay. My kids always say, Mom, I'm bored. And for me, I say, it's okay. Like, you'll find something to do. But I feel like just packing so many things into our schedule is not a good thing. So that's what I just did this past week. I just had a staycation at my parents' house in New York, and it was great. Like, I just had time to think and to reevaluate things. And I find that really helpful. And that totally fills my cup, just having the time and the space to think about things.
I think you and I are very similar that way. And I love the fact that you're highlighting that we don't have to be always in the doing, that we could just be in the being, right? Just be there, be present. And it's okay to have time where you're not doing anything. Our training is so being on the go all the time. And we do live in a society that really emphasize the importance of work and put all our value defined by the work that we're doing. And I think this is really contributing to burnout and unhappiness. So it's so important to have these kind of times, just sitting, reading a book, doing nothing is fine. And it's actually part of recovery.
Yeah. And something for me is that's when I find that I'm able to be creative, and I come up with these things that kind of pop up, and where you never would have really thought about it. If you're thinking really hard to come up with a new idea, sometimes you need that creative time.
Absolutely. And I do believe it's been studied in psychology that these time of laziness, boredom, whatever we want to call them, this is really where creativity spark. And I equate it a little bit like if you're exercising and you're lifting weight or running, you cannot do this all the time. Your muscles are going to be exhausted and you're going to actually get injured. And this is the same thing, that constant intellectual stimulation or feeling that we need to be in the doing all the time can really burn our brain and damage that imagination and creativity area of our brain. And that's really what we want to flourish, because I think one of the main reason it's so important to understand that we can pivot in our career is that because at some point, I think we all wonder, is this all there is to it? Is this all I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? And it's so important to have this space where we are more creative and think outside the box and incorporate it in our professional career, because that keeps the drive going, right? It's like give that excitement that you're doing something new and that you can keep on going. And I agree with you. Exercise is my drug, right? If I have 2 days without exercising, I'm starting to be like, my mood is down. I'm not a happy mom. I'm not a happy person. And I love your walk and talk at lunch meeting. I'm not a fan of early morning meeting or lunch meeting. I think they're just not healthy for our circadian rhythm. And what I do actually when I'm doing my televisit at home during my lunchtime, I just love sitting outside my garden, having lunch in my garden or having coffee. And even those like 20, 30-minute break really changes my whole day. I don't feel like I'm being boxed the whole day. I really feel like I did have time to breathe. So it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be big trips and big vacation. I think it's very important to integrate these, like you said, these little moments in your daily life. Walk, be outside for a little bit, exercise on a regular basis, mini vacation, mini trips to the museum, mini trips, mini hikes, whatever it is. I think a lot of us think that we have to save our energy for these big vacation or for retirement, etc. But I always start to think maybe we should live more European style, where every day there's room to play and to have fun and to be lazy and to enjoy life. Christina, anything else you would share with us in where we are now at our stage in your career, the things you wish you knew when you started? For our graduating fellows going into the real world now and feeling that pressure that they need to perform, they need to say yes, that they need to publish 5 articles per year and be on every committee and be invited to talk, that pressure to prove ourselves, especially as women in GI, trying to prove ourselves that we have a seat at the table, which we shouldn't be doing. Our value is our value. Well, what would you have loved to say to your younger self and share with our graduating fellows or early career gastroenterologists?
So I think there is so much pressure that we put on ourselves, but it's really mostly we do it to ourselves. So I think one thing is just be very kind, especially in your own mind and your own conversations that you have with yourself, because you're much nicer to your friends sometimes than the conversations you have in your own mind. And like I said, I had all this pressure on myself to be a perfectionist, to do everything right. And you don't have to do that. You're doing it to yourself, right? Have permission to fail. You're not going to do everything okay. And when you do fail at things, you're bound to fail, right? And if you don't fail, you're not trying enough and you're not putting yourself out there enough. So I think number one, just be very kind to yourself and know you're not perfect. I think the second thing is it's okay to say yes to things, particularly earlier in your career. But when you say yes to things, you want to do those things well, right? So they have to be aligned with your long-term goals or to forward whatever mission that you have in your mind. And it may change. So that's, again, okay. But I think if you do say yes to something, try to do it the very best that you can. I think other things that I found helpful over my career is really just trying not to be isolated. So even during things like COVID, just staying involved with our GI societies. And we have so many awesome GI societies, whether it's ACG, AGA, ASGE, the Celiac Society that I'm still involved with. I think just connecting with colleagues. And how you and I met actually was over social media. Who knows what Twitter is now called? It's X or what it will be. But I think that GI Twitter conversation was really helpful for me to feel connected, especially when we were all in lockdown. So I think not being isolated. Something early on in my career is that I always stressed about finding mentors. And people would say, you have to find a mentor. But I never had a mentor that kind of encompassed everything. So it's okay to pick and choose from different areas, different mentors that are in different fields, and they don't even have to be in GI or in medicine. And I heard this once and I thought it kind of resonated with me. You can have a mentor from afar. So someone who's out there doing something you're interested in and you can follow their work, and you don't even have to know them personally, but they could be a mentor from afar. And then you and I have also talked about this concept of friend tours. So Jenny Blake introduced that to me. And those are really your friends, your peers, your colleagues who really are there to bounce ideas off of you. And I found that to be so helpful with my co-fellows, my associates, colleagues where I've worked over the years, the nursing colleagues I've had, dietitians. So I feel like I've learned so much from these kind of friend tours more than that specific mentor. I think also sponsorship is something that we've talked about. And I think having other people in mind when you're in conversations or in committee meetings and thinking where you could sponsor someone else and put their name forward for different jobs. I think that's been really helpful. And coaching was actually really helpful for me. Barbara Young had talked to me about that years ago at the AGA women's meeting. And she had mentioned that she had coaching. And that's something that's scientifically proven to help reduce burnout, to increase resilience. Several sessions over a 5 or 6 month period has been shown scientifically to help. So that's something we don't talk enough about in medicine. We know burnout contributes to medical errors. It contributes to physician turnover, cost, reduced patient access. So something really simple like talking with somebody and trying to establish your goals, having accountability really helps. And I was really happy that was something that I got introduced to several years back and helped me. Those sessions continue to help me.
This is great. This is great, Christina. I think the main message, if I may say so, is that in order to achieve this work-life integration, it has to be really, truly integration. I think in our mind, we often separate the person we are at work from our personal life, and personal life is the family, the friends, outside work. But the idea, honestly, is like to bring in more of your personality and your interests into work, and that the professional world that you have, your colleagues, your mentor, sponsor, also have that more personal relationship with them. And honestly, a lot of our colleagues become our friends also because we do spend a lot of time at work. So a true integration is not just finding that balance about the time and energy you're spending at work and in your personal life, but really bringing your persona to work, your interest to work and to your patient, and really make your professional network, if you want, also being part of what feeds your soul on a personal level. So, and I love the friend tours. I heard that first from you, and I think we're adopting it with Scrubs and Heels, because I think it really highlights that your circle, your support, your network doesn't have to be those senior leaders that we think of as mentors or sponsors, but it really is everyone. Again, from the nurses you work with, the fellows, your colleagues, people you look up to, and really also, like you said, branch out of medicine, whether it's coaching or people you admire and inspire you outside medicine that can really help you and guide you and open doors for you. So I think that work-life integration really means that it should really be all part of who we are, as opposed to having two lives that are separated that we're trying to juggle. It's really bringing everything together. And I think you do it so well in the way you're practicing gastroenterology and bringing your interest in and really finding the path that works for you and defining success for you, even if it's not in the traditional way, which I don't know what it means anymore. I think this is what women are doing in terms of bringing who they want to be in medicine, is that we're changing these concepts. What does success mean? What does a career mean? And really realizing that we can design our own path that is adapted to our life journey and our personality and our interests, right? There's not one path.
One thing I think that is very important as a take-home point for the listeners and for us to remember is that it's a village, right? It takes a village we talk about for childcare, for our careers. I think at the end of the day, it's important for us to remember we're not alone. And when people do experience symptoms of burnout, it's not something that the individual has done wrong. It's a systems problem. So I think that's really helpful for us to remember and to just recognize it, to get help and to make a path forward.
I agree. Thank you so much, Christina, for sharing your journey with us and the lessons learned. Thank you to all the listeners who joined us. We are excited for you to listen to the other insightful discussion that are part of this podcast series. And as a reminder to view the full program, claim your CME credit, and to join the discussion, please click on the link in the show notes. As always, thank you for listening.